Okay, yeah, I think we can start now.
Cool. Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. You're welcome. Welcome everyone to this session. So today, Grace talking to us about.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, good. So over to you, Grace.
Awesome. Cool. I can start sharing my screen. Thank you all for coming today. It's about 9 a.m. where I'm at. So yeah, and I made all my slide decks in Figma. And feel free anytime, people, you can let me know if you have any questions. I cannot see the questions while I'm sharing my screen, but I'll leave room for Q&A afterwards. And so today I'll be talking about how to become a designer without a design degree. I'm currently a full-time designer at Electronic Arts, and my background is actually in bio and computer engineering, and I've never studied design or went to any boot camp or have any certifications for design. I'm mostly self-taught, and with the help of a lot of great people I've met in the design community and working on a lot of projects through hackathons and game jams and everything. So yeah, super excited.
That's
Oh, what did you say?
That's really great.
Thank you. Yeah, so for today, I'll talk a little bit about my background and how I got to where I am today and lessons I've learned along the way. And I have some projects I've done that helped me land my first internship in design earlier this year. And I'll talk about my struggles, experience doing internship search and some interview tips I've kind of experienced and takeaways from my experience. And talk about how I networked. And fun fact, I actually got my internship at Electronic Arts earlier without applying. I was solely through networking on LinkedIn. And then I'll talk about my intern to full-time experience, that conversion, and how I negotiated my salary, and some resources, and ending with a question and answer. And so I'm actually a designer. I need to update my slides for that part, but I'm a full-time designer now. I started on Monday, and I'm also the founder and design lead of Design Buddies community. I'm a computer science engine grad student at Santa Clara University in California, and so it's about 9 a.m. where I'm at right now. Feel free to let me know where you are in the chat right now too. Would love to know. And I have a lot of side hustles. I run my own art business, have my own social media and blog. I really like to create content to help designers, students, and content creators. And I used to table at anime conventions and doing art on the side. And so for intro, so growing up, I really wanted, so it's kind of like my career journey. Growing up, I really want to be an anime artist, or a game designer, and imagine myself working in entertainment. I also ran a lot, and like running cross country and track in school, and I created a lot of social media content for that. I had a really big blog on Tumblr. And then along the way, I've decided to major in bioengineering and decide to become a neurosurgeon. So that was my goal coming into college. I was a really competitive athlete, a cross-country and track athlete, and I want to learn how to biohack myself to run faster. So I studied bioengineering, and my goal when I began college in 2015, undergrad, I wanted to become a neurosurgeon with an MD PhD. So that was my goal. However, I learned to not pursue things just for my resume or just so I have more letters like after my name, like a PhD. And then I decided to pursue game design and computer science instead. This virtual reality lab opened up my school, and I was watching a lot of YouTube tutorials and taught myself how to make my first game and learning game design, learning level design. And then along the way, I also started my own art business because I never really let go of that childhood passion of mine of drawing. However, after being in game design and development and computer science for a while, working on products, specifically games, end to end, I realized my favorite part is UX and level design. So that's what I decided to focus on. And around the same time, because I don't have a design degree, my degree is in bioengineering and computer engineering, I decided to make some design friends online and just like get to know the field more. So I created Design Buddies in April 2020, and now we have over 12,300 members. So it's been super exciting, and I'm also working full-time now at Electronic Arts as a designer. So that's where I'm at today. Oh, thank you, everyone. And so this is my past life is meaning what I thought I wanted to do with my career. So this is when I graduated my undergrad last year, class of 2019. I want to be a game designer and developer. I loved games and how they can engage people and how they can make learning fun. And that's why I work in games right now, but not directly in game dev. I interned at Intuitive Surgical last summer. And so Intuitive Surgical is the robotic surgery company. They make the Da Vinci robot. Feel free to let me know in the chat if you ever heard of Intuitive Surgical. There's actually this video that came out. It was pretty viral a few years ago about the robot sewing together grapes. So I worked for that company. And I basically made virtual reality games to train surgeons to do surgery. My official job title was virtual reality robotic surgery game developer. And so I made games to train surgeons, and it's really fun. However, I feel like through that internship, I learned that medical devices wasn't really the industry I was really into, because I noticed the culture was not as playful. It was more conservative, but I really enjoyed my time there. I learned a lot, but I feel like I couldn't really be my full self at work. And I got to work on really high impact projects, got to work with surgeons. So it was really cool, like applying gamification and level design to this. But 90% of my time was actually spent developing the game. And I realized I don't really like to code, and that is totally okay. I met amazing people there, but I learned that it wasn't the path for me. I also created my own biology-inspired virtual reality game to teach people biology in a gamification manner, because I really loved applying game theory and gamifying processes, which leads to my passion in games today. And I also worked at Girls Make Games one summer. This was summer 2018. As a lead game development instructor, so I taught middle school and high school girls how to make games in Unity and helped a group of 6 girls produce their own visual novel game. And so this is Selfie, my biology-inspired VR role-playing game. It's also my LinkedIn header. It's one of the first big projects that I made, and I'm still proud of it today. And the goal of Selfie is to learn about biology. And this is inside the chloroplast in the cell where photosynthesis happens. And I added a little quest so people can interact with the environment. So this is all outside of school, everything I'm saying, because I majored in bioengineering and computer engineering in school. I just done projects on the side. And so which leads to projects. And so currently, my current life, I'm pursuing UX and product design. And I started my design journey around the end of 2019, specifically October 2019, is when I decided to pursue design like UX and product instead, and not do engineering anymore or development anymore. I first learned I took this free online course. They're not open anymore, so I'm not going to share it here because they're closed now. But however, I'll talk about like what to look for when you look for online courses and some resources in the next few slides. But that taught me how to learn the fundamentals of design thinking and taking me through a project. I also participated on a lot of hackathons, won a few as well, and that helped me learn how to work with a team and ideate together towards a problem, which is really, really important. That teamwork aspect, super important when it comes to job interviews and in everyday life as well. And collaborating with software engineers, front end, specifically front end, and also product managers and user researchers, a really, really valuable experience to have because that's what I do every day at EA. And also participate in design challenges. So it's kind of like hackathons, but you don't have to code. And I did Protothon, like Adobe Creative Jam is a great one. Like there's like a lot there. They have one pretty often, almost once a month that I feel. And you basically work with a team and prototype a solution to your problem that they give. And you can win gift cards and Adobe Creative Cloud subscriptions. I'm not sponsored by them. I just did 3 of them. I also worked with a startup called Opal by some friends at school. And it was easy for me to get into because I already knew the people in there. So if you know someone who has a startup, it's a lower barrier to entry to get in, actually, to get first experience, because I really like to focus on products that ship, because and the real world, you have to be shipping products, collecting post-launch metrics, iterating on them. And you also get asked about these questions during interviews. So I always try to focus on real world projects. Hackathons, design challenges are great, but real world projects are even better. I also did some freelancing work for this company called Virtually, which is an online school. I did some freelance design work, and the Virtually actually gone to YC, which is really cool, Y Combinator. And I also had my own art business on the side. I feel like it really helped me understand the business side of design. And I create design buddies as well. So this is all the projects I've done. I actually did a total of 10 hackathon design challenges. I didn't mention all of them, so it'd be too much text, but this is what I did to help me land my first internship in design outside of being a full-time student. It is a lot of work, and I don't think you need to do everything, but this is just what I personally done and what I've learned along the way. And oh, go ahead. Oh, I heard someone say. Okay, cool. And yeah, so whenever people ask me like what projects to work on, and there's like so many different avenues. There's like hackathons, there's design challenges, there's startups, freelance. I would always encourage, whenever you have a choice, focus on products that ship, because not only you'll be able to collect post-launch metrics, you can do user testing on it and keep iterating upon the way, because that iterative process is what you do basically every day in industry. And so there's so many online courses and so many ways you can learn design. And so this is just so the online course I took helped me a lot. And these are some things I look for when I'm thinking of what online course I want to take. And so we first want to make sure it covers the design fundamentals, like kind of design thinking and process. And then it also walks you through a project while taking the course. So you're always applying what you learned at the same time, because it's important to know the fundamentals and know a lot of things about design, but applying things is also even more important, because that's how you really learn, getting feedback along the way and getting feedback on your work and having professionals critique your design work, and also having users give you feedback too. And also a live course that meets regularly, because oftentimes in online courses like Coursera, Udemy, they have a less than 10% completion rate, because they have no sense of like accountability. It's just like videos you have to watch in your own time. However, a live course makes you have to show up and deliver work and have group critique sessions, which helps you keep learning. And also community, like you can connect with other students in like a Discord or a Slack with that course. And so there's a lot of course you can learn, and I also there's like a lot more. I got this from the FAQ section in Design Buddies, where the community kind of put together their top choices. Interaction Design Foundation is a great one. I heard a lot of people get certifications from that. And then there's sometimes discounts and stuff. Nielsen Normal Group is also a great one. They also write a lot of great content about UX backed by research and backed by evidence. Start UX Design CC and degreeless.design is great resources as well. And they're more content-wise, not necessarily a course, but other fundamentals are laid out. So you can consider these as like a source of truth. Degreeless.design is what somebody from Design Degree compiled together into a website, gathering everything that he learned from his design degree. And there's also online course platforms where you can find a ton of courses such as LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Udemy, Skillshare, and YouTube. And so you can definitely look on these to find courses. But I would highly encourage live courses where you can get feedback live and work on a project, because that was the most valuable I found in my personal learning experience, instead of just watching a video and memorizing information, and just need to apply it and keep working on it. And you don't need to feel like you're ready. I feel like even if you're starting out as a designer, you can already work on a hackathon, because each project you'll be learning along the way too. So you don't need to be a master at it to join hackathons. Like anybody can join. It's meant to be that way too. And so this is a project I worked on. I created a redesign of an app called Discord. And so that helped me. That's my first project on my portfolio. It helped me think through a problem and ideate towards a solution. I also created this like for a hackathon project I did, one of my first few projects I did with design, UX and product design specifically. It's like a web scraping tool to find low-cost eats around your geographical location. I also created a Chrome extension to keep track of LinkedIn connection. It's like a CRM for LinkedIn.
Wow, that's really a great one.
Thank you. I really go. Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, sometimes like when you're networking, it's really hard to like keep track of everybody you've talked to. But with this Chrome extension, it's actually live on the store. I can find it if you guys are interested afterwards. And link it in the chat. Where you can just like keep track of your connections on LinkedIn, and take notes of who you talked to before and like what you talked about, and set reminders to follow up. So yeah, it's a networking tool that I've helped design during a hackathon. I also did some daily UI challenges to improve my visual design skills. As a UX designer, it's important to know UX, but specifically product designer is more broad than UX. It's important to also knowledgeable the business side and also more end-to-end. So visual design is super important. And how I develop my skills in it is doing daily UI challenges. And daily UI challenges is something you can sign up with your email, and every day they'll email you a prompt about what to do, like create a item selection or item customization, create a task app, create a leaderboard, things like that. And then I just basically design it. And then just improve my visual skills and think about how I want to present information. However, do not only do this. Daily UI challenge is great for visual skills, but it does nothing for UX unless you want to turn it into a problem, like design a task app for busy people, design a task app for entrepreneurs, things like that. So for UX, you really need to think about problem solving. For UI, just think about how you want to communicate elements communicate visual elements on the screen to create a product. And so I learned a lot from doing my design projects. And I've learned to really include the users and testing along the way, because that's what you do in the real world. Like in the real world, how do you convince leadership to ship products, and how you ship products is you have to really validate everything from data. Whether it's qualitative metrics and user research interviews, or quantitative metrics and usability testing, user testing, it's really, really important to collect these along the way. So even if your personal projects, even if you're not working for the company yet, it's also good to involve this, because you can also include this in your portfolio too. And never make assumptions. Like usually you're always designing for the user, you're not designing for yourself. And oftentimes the user is the one who uses your product and buys your product. So if you don't satisfy the users, you won't meet the business goals and you won't make any money. So this is why it's super important to have a clear idea of what the user wants and show that in your portfolio and also in your interview. Make sure to mention that too, because companies need to make money, but they also need to satisfy the users. So it's really important. It's actually one of the top interview questions I get asked during my job interviews is like, how would you measure success? And I would just like tie metrics to whether it solves a user problem, helps make your business success, and have that along the way. So it's super important to really emphasize on that and highlight that, and how you ideate towards your solutions and how you've been validating everything with data. So it's like a science project. You have a hypothesis, your design that will solve the problem, and then you have the data to prove it. And also have post-launch metrics determined before, whether you want to include like class completion rate, include referral rate. So this goes back to data and just like seeing how you want to measure success. So you're setting the foundation and setting the science experiment, because you want to, when you're like, as a scientist, well, I come from a science background. So as a scientist, you want to know like, how is your experiment successful, and like what determines success, and apply that to your project as well. It also proves value to your project, especially when you're talking with investors and with leadership in the company and with other stakeholders involved in the company. You want to have this clear idea of how would success look like and how you would work towards that and have a plan. And then also working with a team is super important. And in the real world, I'm working with other designers, user researchers, software engineers, product managers, sometimes leadership every single day. I'm having meetings to align with them, sprints and everything. So it's important to develop these skills early on and communicate well. And so sometimes there's like different ways you can work with software engineers. For software engineers, you really have to be really clear about data and like the edge cases. Product managers, you have to be really clear about what's the business goal you're trying to achieve. and things like that, and user research, a little bit about psychology. So it's good to know a little bit about each field so you can work better, you can collaborate better with your coworkers who specialize in these things. And so a great way to do that, to get those experience, is to work on projects during hackathons that has like PMs, software engineers, user researchers involved as well, or startup, to get that early experience. And also the fact of like ideating together towards a problem is important. And this is also really important. Like, this industry and tech is always changing. So it's good to have the mentality of keep learning. You're always a student of life. There's always new trends, new technologies, new tools, new ways of learning, new ways of product management, new ways of just managing your things. So it's important to keep learning and adapting. Like right now, we're in the pandemic, so adapting to remote working is important. Keep learning and being flexible is super, super important because everything changes so quickly. So it's good to be always open-minded and everything. And so I also started Design Buddies on the side, and I learned a lot along the way. I've learned the most important lesson I've learned is that people really want to help. Before, I was kind of scared to go to design. So this is for everyone here. Like, if you want to join Design Buddies, you can join there as well. But I noticed that design is actually the most friendly industry I've been in. After being in engineering and medicine, I realized design is, people are really inclusive and just like want to help each other out, because empathy is like big a part of design. You really have to understand the users. And so I created Design Buddies as an inclusive design community in April 2020. And since then, we have over 12,000 members. And we have a lot of events. We did over 30 events, a lot of networking, opportunities, partnerships, speakers, mentorship, and more. We are actually partnered with Amazing Design People List, and we have our mentors from there as well. We actually have a game jam coming up and a lot of fun activities every single week. So feel free to join Discord UG/Design Buddies. I can also link it afterwards too. But yeah, I really learned a lot through creating Design Buddies and how I could network with people that way. And now we'll talk about the internship search and some of the lessons I've learned along the way and the failures I've encountered. And so for my applications adventure, I did about 20. So I started learning design October 2019 and started interviewing and applying for companies. Oh yeah, I saw a comment. Kind of make a link Discord. Yeah, I can link it right now actually, so you guys have it. Design Buddies. And yeah, so I did about 26 applications. So I started learning design October 2019. And from October to December, I was learning design through that course and working on my first project. And I started applying to companies January 2020. From January till May, I also struggled with COVID canceling things. So I sent 26 applications, got ghosted, meaning no one replied to most of it. I did 6 interviews total, 3 rejections, and 2 roles were canceled by COVID. And my first interview was actually with Facebook, and they asked me this question. It was actually got to the final round for the Facebook product design internship back in January, my first ever internship interview, which was crazy to me. The question I got asked was, can you redesign the logo of Venmo during the product design app critique? And I said the mistake I made was I said the first answer that came in my mind, which is like, oh, I have like 2 people shaking hands because they're exchanging money, and it's like a less friction to ask people for money. And yeah, I just like I just rambled on and on. That was like a mistake I made, and I could tell when I looked at the interviewer's face that I took a huge L. And yeah, couldn't take that back, and I got rejected the next day. So yeah, and I've learned that I actually talked to other designers at Facebook and how I should be answering this. And they said that I should be taking a step back and asking more questions, like, what is the business goal or user need of redesigning the logo? Like basically trying to find out what's wrong with the current logo and what metrics the company's trying to hit and what goals they are, and kind of breaking down the problem and redesigning it from there. And so that's how I would solve this problem. So that was like my first ever interview experience. And then the second one was actually with another game company. They specialize mostly first-person shooters. However, I did not make it past the behavioral round interview because I didn't play enough first-person shooters. And so sometimes it's like you have to really know the product in order to work for that company as well. And I personally play a lot of simulation and RPG games, not so many first-person shooters. So that's how I got rejected from that game company. But yeah, so that's mostly the feedback I've got. Other times, I also always ask for feedback after an interview because usually they're not allowed to give it to you, but sometimes they do. And this is great because you can use this to keep improving, but also make you stand out as a candidate because not a lot of people ask for feedback, but it shows the interviewer that you want to improve and they might remember you next time when you apply for that job. And so that's why it's so important to ask for feedback. Even if you didn't get the job, you can treat it as a learning experience and also a way to stand out to the hiring managers and employers. And so these are just like some of the interview tips that I've learned along the way, doing several types. And so for design interviews, there's normally 4 different types. There's also whiteboarding, which I didn't include here because I personally never done a whiteboarding interview, but it's like a really similar process to design challenge. And so for the behavioral interview, which is common to basically every single job out there, where you kind of want to learn your personality and see how you fit with the rest of the team, you really want to focus on your storytelling and process, kind of like a STAR method, where you start with situation, task, and how you approach the problem, how you approach and how you resolved it, and really focus on like what you've learned along the way on top of your story. And how I like to prepare for these is creating a documentation, the doc of frequently asked questions. So things like tell me about yourself, what are your strengths and weaknesses, what is your greatest accomplishment, and just having a doc of that ready for these behavioral interviews, and also having mentors look over your answers to that. And especially during a remote setting, you're most likely interviewing on Zoom. And so what I like to do is I just split my screen. So half my screen is my Zoom and half the screen is my answers to my FAQ questions. So I always have answers to them. I also like to include like industry trends. Like if I want to work in gaming, I actually looked up game industry trends and be able to like talk about that and how like basically, and also make sure it connects to you as well. And don't just like say something out of the blue. Don't like read off textbook answers or read off question answers. Make sure it relates to you as well. So that's why it's important to have people review it so it doesn't sound like too off-brand to yourself. But yeah, that's like trick I like to do during interviews is split my screen because I can. And it's also a remote setting. So yeah. And the second type of interview that you'll most likely encounter. So for UX and product design, you'll always have a behavioral and a portfolio review. App critique, design challenge, whiteboarding challenge, it's more company specific. So portfolio review, you really want to focus on your case studies and create a slide deck to present. Like when you're presenting with the interviewer, you do not want to be sharing your case study on your website because they can already see it and it's already text heavy. So you want to create a slide deck like this slide deck to showcase your case studies and your project as well. And there's also a lot of templates for this in the Figma community. So that's also a great resource you guys can look into when designing and building your slide decks for your portfolio review. But you really want to make your problem clear and how you chose your design decisions, how they align to the problem you want to solve. And they always answer, like about people always, like hiring managers always emphasize how important the storytelling is. So making sure you have a clear beginning, middle, and end. So I have a whole case study presentation, but the beginning, make sure you set the stage of your problem, setting the characters, like the problem involved and the setting. Middle, your iterations. So it's kind of double diamond where you want to diverge and converge. This is when you want to diverge and ideate and think of different alternatives, examples, and choose a few from there. And ending, and then also user test some and ideate more. In the end, you want to make sure you have your lessons learned and collect the data and end the product and what you basically done along the way. And so just making sure you have all these things is really important. And there's like a lot of guides to portfolios online and everything as well. And it's the other type of interview. This is kind of what Facebook does. I don't know if any other company does this, but basically you walk through with the interviewer with an app of your choosing or their choosing. Sometimes you can share your screen as well. You can actually join Google Meets on your phone and share your screen that way. And usually a mobile app too. And you really want to highlight the product strategy, like what the problem you're trying to solve. For example, Venmo, they're trying to reduce friction and asking people for money. you also want to tie design decisions to business goals and user needs, and just like have that in the back of your mind, and just not making sure you're not commenting on like what the app, how the app looks like, but comment on how the designs help the app facilitate the function and how they relate to business goals and user needs. Some other companies have design challenges, a little bit more have it. What I like to do is I like to Google search examples, because sometimes people publish these, and this is a good way to see what other people have done. But don't copy it. It's just a good guideline to help you get started. And that's what I personally did when doing design challenges. There's also whiteboarding interviews where you can like practice and walk through. And yeah, so this is like kind of what I've learned through my interview experience.
Thank you for sharing. That's really a great one.
Yeah, of course. I've learned a lot along the way. I also did a lot of Google searching. This is kind of like the narrowed down version I could think of. And so for all these interviews, I know I just said like 5 different types of interviews. You always want to make sure you're focused on storytelling and the problem. So making sure you're having so storytelling has a beginning, middle, and end. They have a hero's journey, and have an overall plot of the story. So think about your story, a typical story, and think about how you want to tie in your case study or your designs to that, design solutions to that story, relating the problem, like staying true to the plot, which is the problem, and also making sure the settings align, like all the characters and the context of the problem is also set clear, and also having a clear beginning, middle, and end up to that story as well. To all of whenever you want to talk about design, you always want to make sure you focus on storytelling, especially when you're presenting case studies. And so now I'll talk about networking and how, basically, fun fact, I actually got my internship at EA without applying. It was 100% through networking on LinkedIn. And networking is all about making friends and getting to know others. It's not about transactional relationships, not about like, oh, I want a job, please give me a job. It's about taking the time to really make a human connection and getting to know others and making friends, because friends also help each other out, and making sure it's like a two-way street as well. And so I'll first talk about networking on LinkedIn, and how I basically went about that. And so I always make sure to have an all-star status, like have a whole complete portfolio, have a whole complete profile. And this helps you get noticed by recruiters and hiring managers.
Yeah, that's a great one. I would like you to talk more on that. LinkedIn very, very well. It's very, very great.
Yeah, I can also share my screen about LinkedIn right now or towards the end as well. I can like show you how I completed my LinkedIn profile, if that helps too. Should I share it right now or towards the end? I guess I can also share it maybe towards the end. I can feel free to like type it as a question, and I can talk about how I can share my screen with my LinkedIn and how I decided to complete different parts, and everything, if that's helpful as well. And then, yeah, the second part, LinkedIn's not just a place to display yourself. It's a community. It's a social media platform. So you should be creating content. Well, this is just a way to stand out. I find that 95% of people, about 95, like probably don't do this, but it's another way to stand out to hiring managers. It also helped me in a way to get my return offer at EA for full time. And you can do this by posting, like to create your own personal brand. So personal brand, I have a whole talk on this, but essentially personal branding is how you want people to feel about you, and how do you want people to perceive you, and having a brand with yourself. And so you can create this by sharing the stories, lessons you learn along the way, successes, failures, but really focus on lessons learned, because this really helps people and talk about your experiences, and also shows as an employer that you're willing to learn from your mistakes. And also posting about your goals and progress, like your portfolio works. This is a great way to do. Sometimes people post about interesting books and articles they read along the way too, or conferences they went to, and takeaways from there. Just like content that would maybe like valuable to the users. And also engaging on other people's posts as well to get on the radar, like commenting on their posts, messaging them, and connecting with people. Because LinkedIn is not just a place for your overall like resume to live, basically. It's also a place to engage with others and express yourself. And this is a way you can really stand out as a candidate, especially coming 2021. A lot of people got out of the jobs, and so a lot of people are in the job market. So it's like super competitive right now. And so this is how you can stand out amongst all the competition that's gonna probably incoming 2021. And also reaching out to people. Not only you complete your profile, you've engaged with the community, you built your own kind of personal brand. The third step is now you can reach out to people. So I've actually sent 400 connection requests to different design directors and senior managers in industry, and just basically learn about their story and how they got to where they are today. And the goal is to basically network and don't sell yourself. Just make a new friend, and this will personalize your message. And so don't make it seem like you're only reaching out to them to get a job, but also really just like coming with a mindset, just like wanting to learn about their journey and how they got to where they are, because it's really helpful information that you won't find through Google searching. And you really want to personalize your message when you reach out, talk about who you are and similarities. And so this is the message template I've sent to 400 people. And this is like the under 300 character connection request message. And yeah, so I did this 400 times over the span of 2 months. I just say like, I'm a grad student, who I am, looking to pursue UX design like my goal, and would love to learn about how you got to where you are today. Because people love talking about themselves. And I also leave this open-ended because sometimes people prefer just to answer via message. Some people want to hop on the Zoom call, and just leave it open-ended like that and just connect that way. And then fourth is once they answer a message, so I did about 30 informational interviews in the span of a month. I always go with the flow. And so treat it like a conversation, like you're talking with a friend at a coffee shop, and don't be nervous, because like I was super nervous the first time, and it made the other person really nervous as well. So just be yourself and just relax. Think of them just another friend. I know it's really easy to feel intimidated when you're talking with a design director or a senior manager or even a manager, but they're humans as well. And like once you're less nervous, when you're not nervous, they're not nervous as well. So really just treat it like you're talking with a friend, and they're just another human being. And I like to like ask them to share their story, find things in common, connect, ask questions, just like a friend. Like you want to know about them, and just ask those questions too. And then people also love talking about themselves. And so it's a great way to like make a connection. And so some good questions, and this is important to prepare ahead of time and really do like at least 10 minutes looking through their profile, finding things in common, looking at their portfolio. So a question I like to ask is like, oh, I see that we both like ran cross-country track. Like, how did the things you learned from that experience help you as the UX design director today? And just like ask some like really specific questions like that to really show that you did your research. Because they're more open, they really like that. And it's also important to make sure you're not asking like easily Googleable questions. I also like to ask like, what are some of the previous projects you worked on and like lessons you've learned to get some insights about what the company does and whether you want to go into the industry. And so it's good to know about these things too. Because when you're applying for a job, you're also interviewing the other company, and you want to find out more if it's a great fit, because it's like a two-way street. I like to ask about their career goals, because some of them, like, they want to be VPs, which is pretty cool. They could be a cool connection later on too. And it's also a great way to like establish that human connection. At the end, I always make sure to ask how I can help out as well, because it's a two-way street, and I took up their time asking questions. I want to find a way to give back as well. So asking how I can help out towards the end is also super important. And also don't sell yourself. Make it human, just like you're making a friend. Don't make it seem like you're wanting a job, because like this is a quote from Felix from ADP List. But so he says like, if you ask for a job, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get a job. So really, really think about that, and think about that. Also, like really resonated with me, and everything, especially around networking, and other people are reaching out to me as well. Because I get a lot of messages every day about people wanting like cold referrals to EA. And I definitely can relate on the other side as well now. And so networking doesn't always have to happen on LinkedIn. It can happen in other communities as well. Twitter is also one I forgot to add here. Twitter is a great one. Discord, you can join Design Buddies again over there. You can attend conferences, Facebook groups are some. I'm not active in too many of the other ones, so I can't really recommend any. But if you search design on Facebook, you'll see a lot of groups. And also Slack has a lot of different design groups as well. And also meetup.com has different meetup groups. So there's all places you can find people to network with and make friends and other designers you can do, not just LinkedIn. And so I learned a lot about my experience networking. I never networked before prior to March of this year, but I used to feel really intimidated reaching out to designers in industry, but it's really important to not be afraid to ask for an informational interview, just making sure your intentions are clear. You just want to learn more, and don't make it obvious that you're looking for a job. And the worst thing I can say is no, so just keep reaching out. I reached out to 400 people, and most people didn't accept, and that is okay. That is normal. My other friend, he sent 2,100 connection requests to get his current job. I sent 400 for my internship. So it's really a numbers game. So just keep working at it. It just takes one yes to change your life. And don't ask for a job. Mistake I made early on was I asked, I was like really subtle about it. Like I asked a design director, like, what attributes or what traits to look for in interns, and like that was like really bad of me, not really bad, but just like really just like not that great for me to ask, because it shows that I'm just like there just to connect to get a job. Just really make it human and really ask for advice instead of like, what do you look for in interns and stuff like that. So that's like a mistake I made early on. And again, if you ask for a job, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get a job. So really think about that. And focus on storytelling. Like the mistake I made before was like, when I would introduce myself, I'll be like, hello, I'm Grace. I run design bodies with like this number of members. And like, it was really off-putting to some people. So I would just like focus on being human. I would just like, oh yeah, I run this like large design community. We host a lot of fun events for people. And just like, this is not a job interview. It's a way to make a human connection. So you don't want to like talk too much about numbers because it feels too salesy, too much like a sales pitch and too transactional. So I would focus on being human and less numbers when you're talking with people, especially when networking in the non-job interview setting. Do follow up to keep that connection warm, show that you're thankful, and just like thanking them for their time. And every few months, I would like update the people I've talked to, the 30 people, who kind of gave me mentorship and advice, how I'm up to and what I've accomplished and how their advice helped me. And so it's important to keep that connection warm, because if you ever want to like switch industries, if you want to intern to full-time, if you just want another mentor that's outside the company to give you good advice, that's also good to have as well. So in case you also ever want to hop companies as well, you have a connection there too. So it's really good to keep networking, because ultimately, this is not heard of someone else, but your network is your net worth. So the more people you know, the better. But also make sure you're approaching people with good intentions and clear intentions. And so I'll talk about my experience as an intern. It also leaves some room for questions as well, and how I got converted to full-time. And so for my internship, I was on the experience design team. I was both the summer and fall intern at EA. I've mostly worked on one main project with 4 smaller projects as well. And I'm under information technology for the experience design team. So I don't work on games, but I work on everything supporting games, like EA help, design systems and everything too, internal tools for employees. So a lot of different fun projects. I've learned a lot. And throughout a typical week, my team is about 20 people large now. And we have user researchers, copywriters, and mostly designers, and some visual designers as well. We always have a team all hands, so we talk about status updates, team critique, where anybody can sign up for to get any work critiqued, team happy hour / coffee hour, we just hang out and chat, and also one-on-ones with managers and mentors, and also meetings with product management and engineering and now user researchers, and intern and employee resource group events as well. So that's how a typical week would look like. I have a lot of meetings each day, probably up to like 2 to probably like 5 or 6 meetings a day. So that's how a typical week looks like at my internship, and also full-time as well. And so I learned a lot about a lot of lessons along the way of my internship. I learned to keep asking why. So like, why am I doing this project? Like, why is this colored this way? Like, why do we need this? And just like make sure to design the correct features. If you don't understand anything, ask why. Don't be afraid to ask questions because your manager and mentor are here to make sure you understand everything and making sure everything makes sense to you. And so design for scalability. So make sure your designs are scalable and things like that. Have accessible like contrast ratio and everything, so it can be scaled to like different users, but they'll scale like what if a user added like this many games to the library and things like that. And just like think in terms of that long term, how would that product be? And just like gear questions towards that. And also ask to help out. That's how you can identify more opportunities, get more experience. This is what I did. And that's how I got involved in like many projects at EA, is I always ask to help out. Identifying more opportunities, and that also helped play a role in my return offer. Because people thought I was really helpful, which I am, and that helped me get a full-time offer as well. Also more experience, because before I was just assigned to like 1 or 2 projects, but I got like double the projects I got to work on. And also documenting everything, your learnings, your accomplishments, which helps in negotiation afterwards and promotions later on. So having that all documented is super, super important. And also communication, especially in a remote setting. What I like to do after a meeting, I like to write a summary of like action items to do, making sure everybody is aligned, and making sure everything is written down. And also networking within the company as well. Like I also talk to a lot of people who work on different games like The Sims and EA Sports. It's just fun and learning about what they do and having cross-team collaboration. So I actually helped that with my team. I connected my team with different teams, and now we're collaborating. So they can lead to opportunities like that, which all of this helped me land my full-time offer actually, because I was really proactive and thinking about the other ways than what I can do to my project, but also how I can help out and how can my work be scalable? How can my work help long-term? And how can I help out my team, helping them make connections with other teams in the company too, during my internship. And that's how I landed my full-time offer. And also another factors that played a role was I had a lot of personal branding on social media. Like I mentioned before, I've created a lot of content on LinkedIn. My manager actually initiated a full-time. I actually didn't know it was coming this early. And so he got me on, and I had like 2 weeks aside, so I decided to keep it on. I've also negotiated along the way, and I would highlight on like basically documentation, everything I've learned, and all the impacts I did, help create connections across the company, asking to help out and things like that. And that helped me negotiate a lot more actually. And I got everything I asked for. So always negotiate, and look at your accomplishments and like look at the common salaries among your area is a great way to back your negotiation requests with evidence. And so now I'll talk about some resources before we leave it for some time for questions. So these are some compilations of resources. Feel free to take a screenshot, or I think this is recorded as well, so you have this all here. And also some applications I like to use. I love Figma the best. I use Figma for everything. I know we're not friends with Figma. I love Figma. It's my favorite app. I'm not sponsored. I just love it. I create my slide decks in it. I create everything in it. I also create all the banners for design buddies in Figma. And so I use Figma, basically replace my Adobe products, to be honest. I also love Notion. It's like a life wiki for me. Miro is also good for brainstorming collaboration with people who might not be in design or too familiar with Figma. And also Discord for team communication. I prefer Discord over Slack. And overall, I learned a lot of life lessons along the way. I know I changed a lot of different career paths, but really don't be afraid to take risks. Like the worst thing that happen is fail, but when you fail, it's a way you always learn from it. And you can always ask for feedback. And also, don't listen to people who say you can't accomplish something. I had a lot of professors telling me to stay in my lane, how I should pursue engineering, how I shouldn't do design. But at the end of the day, they might have good intentions. Like they know like what worked for them in their field, but you know yourself better than those professors. Like they might have the best intentions, but they don't know you. They don't know the field as much as you do. So it's on you to make your decisions. And just because somebody might be a professor or like somebody who had lots of experience in a different field doesn't mean they're qualified to make that decision for you about what you want to do with your life. And also balance is really important for long-term success. Like don't burn out. It's like don't work too hard, otherwise you'll burn out. I learned this the hard way. Just making sure you're doing something that makes you happy every day. I personally draw, and talk with people on the internet, and that makes me happy instead of just like straight working. And I think so balance is really important. And so that concludes our presentation. I'll be welcoming any questions now, and you're welcome to connect with me on any of my social media platforms. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah,
This
of
class
course,
is
you're welcome.
very, very, very interesting. Like, very, very great. Thank you so much. So please help me. Yeah. Please, if you have any question, please drop it in the question and answer section or drop it in the comment
Yeah, I'll
section.
drop my
Either of the
LinkedIn
two.
so you can connect with me as well. I can also answer any questions there too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great one. Can collect with page on LinkedIn. So
Oh yeah,
on
I post a
Twitter.
lot
Also,
of
I think
content on
you are not
Twitter. So
always
I'm
online
trying to
on
post
Twitter
more on Twitter.
as
I
compared
also
to
have some of
LinkedIn.
my art Instagram too. You're welcome to connect with me there. And then my portfolio is just graceling.com. And I have a lot of case studies on there. So you can use these as examples for your own portfolio too. Yeah, thank you everyone. Let me scroll up to see any questions. Oh yeah, live forces. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, can you talk about more your link? Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a question.
Yes. So let me share my
Can you talk
screen
more
to
about
go to my LinkedIn.
LinkedIn and how you beat your profile?
So my LinkedIn is over. Can y'all see my screen? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, so what's the question? Oh, like LinkedIn. Okay, so for
Not
LinkedIn,
yet. Yeah,
I've had
can
LinkedIn
see it
since
now.
2017, but I haven't been active on
Yeah.
it before until 2020 actually. And so the first thing people see is your cover photo and your profile picture. So making sure you have a profile picture that people can identify you, that it's you. Usually professional or something like showcase your personality. I recently changed it to like me holding an emoji because it just showcases my personality more. And I also show like what I do. And yeah, and also for the about section, this is like another most important part is I have like a goal. I'm not just a goal, but just like a summary overall, like my life mission, I guess. And also what I do professionally and what I am as a student, my education background, and then outside what I do, and things like that. And also how I am in the community, and also my speaking engagements and call to action to reach out and all my links. So this is how I personally structure my profile, and there's also different ways to do this, but I always make sure I'm really I have clear intentions about what I want each section to be about, and I break things up. And so like one huge block of text. I personally like to add emojis as well, but it also depends on your personality. And this featured section is where you can like put your featured posts. You can also put your featured work on here too. Sometimes people put their resume or their highlighted works as well. So it's a great tool you can take advantage of. And then, yeah, and for experience section, making sure that it's filled out. So this is like your resume, but you can fill out more information as well. And so, yeah, making sure that you have everything here. And then sometimes I like to include links to things, to reference things, and more links. And just making sure everything is complete and all of your experiences here. And just like your resume wording, like founded, manage, conduct. And it's also good to have other people look over as well, to like making sure there's no spelling mistakes and making sure everything is clear. You can attach fun attachments relating to it as well. And yeah, and then I also have my education section where I have everything I went to, and also included like activities and societies if you're a student. I was pretty involved as an undergrad, and I also put honors in there too. And you probably don't have to put your GPA. I don't know. I just put it there because I was proud of it. And yeah, and also I took a lot of like LinkedIn learning courses before, which used to be Linda. So I had this here as well. And yeah, volunteering experience I was involved in the community and I helped build a lot of communities and everything too. And I have this here. And then in endorsements, and then this is actually not updated, but there's another part you can like also add more accomplishments to this page. And yeah, so that's how I personally put my LinkedIn profile. And then for the post page, I like to post about things like events I was in, photos, and things like that. This is like kind of like posts I like to do. It's like what I'm doing, and different story times and stuff. And yeah, you're welcome to kind of look through and see. But that's how I personally structured my LinkedIn. Let me look back. Oh, more. Yeah, go ahead.
That's really good. Let me take the second question here. Yeah. Okay. Can you give
sure.
more? Oh, let me check this.
Yeah, let me actually
What was the
share
free
that.
design course that you took? Do you have any free design?
So
Share.
I actually, this is how I built my slides. I built it in Figma, but let me find that course. So this course. So these are some of the free design courses that I have here. And I would also like to share Design Buddies because there's another FAQ section with more resources you can join. So this is just like a summary, but I could show my Discord. So this is Design Buddies, and we have an FAQ new to design section. And so this channel has a lot of resources, and this is where I can learn UI UX design online. So this is where I got this from. And so this is compiled about the community, but you can like look at all these things, and this is where you can learn UX design online. And yeah, I can drop the resource in the chat again so you guys have access to it. But that's like a really comprehensive resource that's like more in depth than my current presentation.
Yeah. So the next question is what do you think? Okay, I think what this question is trying to say is that
I think just
what
like
the company
ability,
look for
like
in a newbie
humbleness,
designer when you're trying to apply for an
really being
internship.
self-aware what you know and what you don't know. Because the mistake I made before was like, oh, I know all these things, but I really didn't. Just like being self-aware of what you know, what you don't know, and also like knowing what you don't know and talk about like what you're doing to fill in these knowledge gaps. And so for me, I didn't have that much experience shipping products, but I was actively participating in hackathons to get that experience with working with teams and shipping products and stuff. So yeah, and that's what I look for, just like self-awareness, being honest about what you don't know, but also being clear about how you are filling these gaps. And I saw Amandine's question. I personally don't, because I honestly don't want to dedicate to something I know I can't put my 100% into. And so I like to create a lot of content. So if you ever I also have a Medium article and I write a lot of LinkedIn posts. So if you have a copy request, feel free to like let me know. I'm planning to write a lot more content on LinkedIn and also on Medium to help everybody in design. And so that's what I try to do instead, because I have a full-time job and I run Design Buddies, and I'm also a part-time student. So that's why I would love to, but I know I can't commit to it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Carolyn had a second one.
Any other question? Do you have any other question, guys?
Oh yeah, so Carolyn asked, how do you balance prioritizing being a student, intern, chats, networking, side projects, art, etc.? Yeah, what sacrifice do you make? Yes, great question. My grades are the sacrifice I make. You can't be like, I'm human. I have limited time as well. And so I think about what I want to accomplish long term and like what is important for me to meet these goals. And for me, I want to work in industry and I want to work as a designer. And like grades are important to get to grad school or to go to med school or law school. However, I noticed a point of diminishing returns. Like, for example, the amount of effort that takes from a B to an A could be 20 extra hours of studying a week, and I could put these 20 extra hours to design, community building, entrepreneurship, things like that. So my grades are what I've sacrificed in grad school. In undergrad, I was actually pre-med, so I spent most of my time in the library studying for that. But yeah, my grades are what I sacrificed. I just like pass the bare minimum. But you have to be careful though. If you're in a company and they're paying for your grad school, some companies have a GPA requirement. Like you can't get below a B minus. So make sure you're aware of that too. So being aware of you, like I don't. That's why I just had to get a C to pass, and that's why. But making sure that you read all the guidelines and you can make sure it's okay to like just pass. So I don't know. But also like it really depends on your goals. Disclaimer: like don't just like listen to me and like not try in school. If you want to go to grad school, if you want to go through med school and law, like grades are really, really important. And if your company's paying for it, making sure that you're hitting the minimum GPA requirement if they have any. So don't just take my word and just like not try in school. But that's how I personally balance.
That's very good.
I can answer that. Also,
I think
Habib
this
asks,
question is
what's the preferred design system for a project, and also the difference between UI kits and design systems? Great question, because that's what I've worked on at my whole fall internship at EA. So design system is really just like a system of collaboration. It's like building blocks or like a Lego. Like you have Lego pieces, which are like buttons, fields, and stuff, which build a product, which is the product. And UI kits is just basically how things look like. So how forms look like and how buttons look like. They don't really have any relation to an ecosystem. So design systems are usually a system, and UI kits how it look like in design systems. You always have to collaborate with engineers, product managers, mostly engineers, to make sure your specs are met and all the components are reusable and scalable, and making sure that you're building them in Figma so you can cover different constraints and using variants and all these different tools Figma has. UI kit's just how something looks like. It's just for one project, but design system could be like a whole ecosystem. So think Google Material Design and think like Salesforce Lightning design system. And their design system on their website, they cover a whole range of products using that system. So it's like a common language. UI kits is just for one project and how things look, and that it does not scale. So that's the main difference between design system and UI kit. Yeah.
oh, thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much. Really
Yeah.
answered the question very well. Take the next question. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, can you please
UX design
elaborate
focuses
more
on
on
more
the
user
difference
experience,
between
so
product
more of that
design
user
and
flow.
UX
But
design?
personally, from my experience as a UX design intern, I've touched on a lot about the business side, user research side as well. And product design is more end to end. So sometimes product designers, they know a little bit about front end, they know a bit about user research, they know more about business. So it's more end to end, but these terms are used really, really interchangeably. My title right now is actually designer at EA. And which means I also do a lot of product, because sometimes different companies, they use different terms. Like Google, they use interaction design for UX and product design. Facebook uses product design. Amazon uses UX design. So they all really mean really similar things, and people do really similar things. But product is more end-to-end, what I do. And also UX is more focused on the user experience specifically. But UX designers also do a lot about what product designers do, and also involved in the product thinking process and user research process too.
Yeah. Do we have any
Oh,
other
Carolyn
question,
asked another one.
please? Um,
So how would you take what you learned from your master's degree in CS and apply it to your role as a
okay.
designer? Do you feel that helped your journey into design? Great question. I definitely feel like it does. Before, I was struggling to see like why I was studying CS, but I studied CS. So when I was graduating from my undergrad last year, my degree was in bioengineering with a minor in computer science and engineering. And I knew I wanted to work in tech, and I knew I didn't really have the qualifications to. So I just stayed in school, another master's at the same school I went to, because I didn't have to take the GRE, and I got a really low score in that. So I was like, oh, I'll just stay here. And yeah, before I was just like, how can I like apply this to design? But then I realized after talking to my manager, and it also helps me really work with engineers and really understand their pain points and how front end works and how to build components and how to write libraries for engineers as well. But definitely not mandatory. Like as a designer, you do not need a code. You'll pick up these technical skills along the way. But as a CS major, for me, it personally helped me. And then also talking to my manager, looking at long term, I know I want to somehow be be a leader one day and like be a manager. And the more experience I have, like product managers, like think of product managers, they have like design, business, and technical experience. So as a manager, like it will help me like advance in my career more, just like having that technical knowledge I have, and also a degree to help me just like get promotions and stuff like that too. And so that's how it personally helped me in like working with developers, but also like in a leadership standpoint and a future promotional standpoint is what I heard from my manager. So yeah, that's how my CS degree helped. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. It's nice having you here today. So the next 5 minutes will be closing this
Or
session. If
anyone,
you
you're welcome to
have
like
any
message
question,
me or
please
join
drop it
Design
now.
Buddies if you have any other questions too, and we're happy to answer like anytime in the future if you think of some. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. Um,
Yeah, thank you
yeah,
for coming here today, Grace. We really appreciate it.
yeah,
Really
thanks for
means
having me.
yeah, it really means a lot to the community. Thank you, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
Um,
welcome.
yeah, please you can this event online, tag R and the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Would this event also be on YouTube afterwards, or recorded anywhere?
And also, Grace, can you please share the presentation slides with the community?
Oh, I actually don't share slides, but you can have we can post the recording anywhere.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. Glad you enjoyed.
Yeah, everyone really enjoying this session. It was very great one.
Awesome.
So in the next 2 minutes, we'll be closing this session. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hope everyone else enjoys the rest of your day.
Yeah,
Stay safe from the virus and everything too. All right. Bye, everyone.
all right, bye.
Bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate. Please let's post about this event online.